I was 8 years old when I met the girl who fell out of the sky. That wasn't how the news reported it years later, of course. Officially, there was never a crash, never a visitor, never anything strange in the dry hills outside my hometown. Just a meteorological anomaly and a temporary blackout that wiped a few hard drives and a lot of memories. Mine wasn't wiped. I remembered the light, blue-white and silent, tearing the evening apart like a wound. I remembered running toward it because I was a stupid kid who thought adventure was something that happened to people who didn't hesitate. And I remembered her. She was sitting in the crater when I found her, knees drawn to her chest, skin glowing faintly like moonlit porcelain. She looked human enough to fool me, except for her eyes. They were too large, too luminous, swirling with colors I didn't have names for. I should have run. Instead, I asked her if she was okay. She looked up at me, startled, like she hadn't expected kindness to exist here. Then she smiled, hesitant, uncertain, and nodded. "My name is Asha," she said, her accent strange but musical. "I am far from home." We spent the summer together after that. She hid in the old observatory outside town, the one no one used anymore. I brought her food. She showed me things, tiny floating lights she could shape with her hands, star maps that moved and rearranged themselves, stories about worlds where the sky was violet and the ocean sang. She learned fast. Too fast. By the end of the summer, she spoke like she'd lived on Earth her whole life. I asked her once if she was going to leave. She went quiet then, staring up at the stars through the broken dome.
"Soon," she said.
"They will find me." I didn't understand what that meant, but the fear in her voice scared me. So I did what kids do when they're scared of losing something. I made a promise. "When we grow up," I said, trying to sound brave, "let's get married." She blinked at me, confused. I laughed, embarrassed. It's just something humans say. Like, no matter what happens, we'll find each other again. She studied my face like she was engraving it into memory. Then she placed her hand over mine. "In my world," she said softly, "a promise like that is binding." I shrugged. "That's okay." She smiled, wide and radiant, and nodded once. "I will remember," she said. 2 nights later, the sky burned again. Men in black vehicles surrounded the observatory. There were lights and shouting, and the roar of something descending from above. I watched from the trees as Asha was taken away, turning back only once. She looked straight at me. She didn't look afraid. She looked certain. I forgot her. Not all at once. It happened slowly, like a dream dissolving in daylight. The crater filled in. The observatory collapsed. Life went on. By the time I was an adult, Asha was just a strange childhood memory I told myself couldn't be real. I went to college.
Got a job.
Failed at relationships. Settled into a life that felt safe, if a little hollow. Sometimes, though, I dreamed of stars that moved when I looked at them. On my 30th birthday, the sky opened again. I was on my apartment balcony, nursing a drink and feeling sorry for myself, when every light in the city went out at once. Silence rolled in, heavy and absolute. Then the stars rearranged themselves. A ship descended without fire or sound, unfolding like a living thing. It hovered just above the buildings, its surface alive with patterns that made my head ache. People screamed. Sirens wailed and died. A beam of light touched down on my balcony, and she stepped out of it. She looked like the girl I remembered, and nothing like her at all. She was taller now, regal, wrapped in flowing garments that shimmered like liquid crystal. Symbols glowed faintly along her skin, tracing paths of power beneath the surface. Her eyes, those impossible eyes, found mine instantly. "Hello," she said. My drink slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor. Asha, I whispered. She smiled, and the years between us vanished. You remembered my name, she said. I hoped you would. My knees gave out. I sat hard on the balcony floor, heart hammering. This isn't real, I said weakly. It is, she replied gently. And I am late. For that I am sorry. She explained everything inside the ship, where the air hummed with quiet energy and the windows showed stars that definitely weren't Earth's. She was Asha of the Valari Concord, heir to a coalition of worlds older than human civilization. Her crash had been sabotage, an attempt to kill her before she could ascend.
She survived.
And she remembered. In my culture, she said, hands folded calmly, a childhood promise of union is sacred, especially when spoken freely, without coercion. I stared at her. I was a kid. I didn't know what I was saying. She nodded. I know. That is why it mattered. She had waited. While I grew up and forgot, she had crossed light years, fought political wars, survived assassination attempts, and prepared for the day she could return. Why now? I asked. Why not sooner? Because now, she said softly, you have lived enough to choose. She wasn't here to take me.
She was here to ask.
But the universe didn't care about romance. The moment her ship arrived, others followed. Warships. Enforcers. Enemies who saw Earth as leverage. They gave her an ultimatum. Return alone and submit, or watch my world burn. Asha stood before the viewport, fists clenched, centuries of responsibility on her shoulders. This is why I did not want to involve you, she said. My life is not safe. I thought of the hollow years, the dreams, the promise I hadn't understood, but had meant anyway. I don't care, I said. She turned to me, eyes shining. You should. I made a promise, I said quietly. Maybe I forgot it, but I meant it. The choice I made wasn't heroic. It was human. I chose her. We didn't fight the Armada. We outsmarted it. Asha used the authority of her lineage and the unpredictability of a human mind to trigger ancient accords, forcing a stand-down that reshaped interstellar politics overnight. Earth was protected. The galaxy changed.
And I left.
Saying goodbye to my planet hurt more than I expected. To gravity. To blue skies. To everything familiar. But when Asha took my hand as we stood on the observation deck, watching Earth shrink into a pale blue star, I felt something settle into place. You don't have to stay forever, she said. Your people live short lives. I would never bind you unwillingly. I smiled at her. Let's see the universe first. She laughed, a sound like starlight breaking. Years passed differently out there. I learned. I aged. She stayed the same, watching me with a tenderness that never faded. When my hair began to gray, she asked me again, this time with ceremony, with full understanding. I said yes, not because of a promise made by a child, but because of one kept by a woman who crossed worlds to honor it. And somewhere in the vast dark between stars, the universe remembered us too.